stand by for her guitar. Hey, hello, and welcome to Simon Says Let's Talk Business. This is your host, Al Simon, with Sandler Training on Business RadioX. This is our show, Simon Says Let's Talk Business, where we spotlight professionals and the excellent companies they represent. We discuss best practices in business today, and so you're going to want to listen carefully, and you're going to want to get something to take notes with, because you're going to get some great ideas today that you can use in your world, and you may want to contact our guests. And so stay tuned as we go. We'll give you an opportunity to write down how to contact them. And we've got great guests today. We're going to have an excellent show. We've got two terrific business people today. Elliot Holland, founder and managing director of Guardian Due Diligence. Welcome, Elliot.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And we've got Nick Keller, the CEO of Prinovus International. Welcome, Nick.
Thanks, Al. It's good to be here.
So we're going to spend a few minutes talking about each of our guests and their businesses and how you can use what they do to help yourself. Let's start with you, Elliot.
Sure.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yeah, man, you got a great smile. Everybody can see it on radio.
I'm sure. Look, it's big enough to see on radio for sure.
Yeah, we can make all the jokes about it when we have a face for radio and all that. We'll skip all that
I've
stuff.
heard them all.
Yeah, me too. So, Elliot Holland, founder and managing director of Guardian Due Diligence.
Yes.
So I know what due diligence is from a sales standpoint.
Right.
That's when the prospect vets the vendors that they want to use for some kind of a project or initiative.
Exactly.
And it's an arduous process, and they don't really do it very well.
Yes.
So tell us, in your case, yours is mostly private equity due diligence, right?
Exactly.
So tell us what that's all about and how you got into this business, if you would.
Sure, absolutely. So Guardian Due Diligence helps family offices, business owners, and private investors execute business acquisitions by managing their grueling due diligence process for them. So we focus on finance, accounting, operations, and legal, and sort of help a person that has a deal that they want to acquire at a price to make sure that they vet all the things about that business that will continue to produce the cash flows they need to make the investment work, and provide a report and a recommendation on actually executing on that acquisition.
Okay, so you're mostly on the buyer side of the equation.
Exactly. I'm a buy-side advisor, buy-side M&A advisor. They have all kinds of names for what I do. But
I bet.
Yeah. I try to keep the nice ones.
You don't like that guy who does that stuff?
Yeah, you know, investment banking, it's kind of a broad list of names. But I got into it after business school. I started sort of just getting really interested into the investing culture. I thought some of the smartest people in my business school class were private equity investors and debt investors. And so I thought being smart was good. I thought it was marketable, and I enjoyed the business and have started 2 different private equity companies and now a service company that actually helps people who are new to the industry execute deals.
Okay. Very cool. So how do you go about finding your prospects?
Sure. Many ways. It's been interesting. So part of the reason I'm here is that I've had to go back to Marketing 101 to go to getting prospects, which has been an interesting place to be. There are probably 4 channels where I get them. So a lot of LinkedIn prospecting.
Okay. Yeah.
I have a website that does a lot of that work for me.
Yeah.
My personal network and my CRM, I still have all my notes from 2010 going forward. So I keep those. And then referrals. So being nice to people and hopefully they are nice to me.
I was going to say, investors know investors, right? So you can probably get a lot of referrals.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And referrals kind of help me with the trust because it's a very trust-oriented relationship when I'm helping you make a decision about $5, $10, $20 million of your money.
Okay. Cool. So what's the best acquisition these days as we start to enter the recovery phase from COVID pandemic? Are there certain businesses that are better than others and more attractive to investors today?
Yeah, I think the real businesses, some of the boring ones are the best ones now. So, for instance, moving trash. I don't think the demand of trash or the supply of it has changed much given COVID. In fact, it probably increased. And
because there's a lot more takeout.
A lot more takeout. I've seen it in my apartment. So, a waste business, a water business, an infrastructure business is great. Something that sort of doesn't move so much up and down given how the market is.
Right.
I also think a long-term solid business, whether it's manufacturing, whether it's security, whether it's a lot of durable medical equipment and healthcare businesses, because we still have baby boomers that are retiring and taking care of themselves in the home. Those are the kind of businesses that I like the most and I think are most interesting right now. That's where I'm keeping my eyes open to.
But not high tech?
High tech is just not my thing.
Okay.
So there's a lot of smart people in high tech.
There are. Bunch of that going on, right?
And we're both Georgia Tech Georgia Tech alum, and so those guys really love it.
Go Jackets.
Go Jackets.
Yeah, we had to say that. Okay, all right.
They love it. I'm very particular about understanding my lane and what I'm great at and focusing on it. If it was high tech, I would go find some of my high tech sort of collaborators to do that better.
Yeah. Okay. In fact, you and I met on LinkedIn, I believe, right? That's right. What we did. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a good point.
Eating our own gumbo.
There you go. Well, hey, listen, I hang out on LinkedIn all the time. In fact, during the pandemic, the height of it, March, April, early May, I was probably on LinkedIn 6-7 hours a day. I'm sure you were too, right?
Absolutely.
That's where people were hanging out.
And I could get people on the phone. That was the good thing about the pandemic, is that it was much easier to get people on the phone.
Yeah.
I took full advantage.
Wasn't it amazing? Yeah, because everybody's sitting at their computer all day with their phone by their side, right?
Right.
Yeah, how about that? Okay, so you mentioned the kinds of clients you serve and how you find new ones. What have you tried in the past that didn't work?
So sometimes sort of referral business through centers of influence doesn't work if you don't really understand the incentives of the people that you're working with. So you can be good to the end customer, but not good to the person who's making the referral, even though they know your end customer. And so there's been a bit of trial of error and sort of prioritizing the different centers of influence that I actually focus my attention on to be sure that there's some ability for them to benefit from that introduction, either through an increase in person's assets or an increased service that's a differentiator for them when they talk to their clients. So let me be more specific. So think about an accounting firm that has a bunch of high net worth individuals that are investing all the time.
Yes.
That person could benefit because there'll be a lot of accounting fees associated with the deal. And so that's a great center of influence to go to. Yeah. However, a private wealth manager that has their own shop, not associated with a bank, going through them won't be as great, because I would essentially be helping somebody take an allocation that person's getting paid on away from them to put it in an alternative asset class that they're not going to get a piece of. So I had some false starts there where I had to sort of figure out where to spend my time.
Yeah. So what's in it for the CPA firm then?
So in each deal, you have to do some sort of audit of a private company. They call it a quality of earnings.
Yeah.
So let's say this hotel was independently owned. They would, and you wanted to buy it, they would give you financials, but at the time a seller actually goes to sell a business, it's one of the highest times that they have a huge motivation to forget things, let's say.
Yes.
Because you pay a multiple of profit or EBITDA to buy a business. And so when you're presented with some facts, you need to be sure that they're actually accurate. So the accounting firm is needed, or someone to do essentially an audit on this private company's financials to make sure that the numbers actually tie out. So a business doing $2 million in EBITDA, you want to make sure it's $2 million and not $200,000. And so the accounting firm that's making the referral to the client would then get the accounting services fees that they would not have gotten had that person not executed a deal.
That makes perfect sense. So any CPA firm that's listening right now probably already knows this, but it would be good to understand exactly how they profit, right? They get fees from services whenever any of their clients get referred to you.
Absolutely. Some of my best referrers in town are accounting firms, and the other ones are lawyers for the same reason. So each deal needs a purchase agreement, an employment agreement, and a myriad of agreements that are legal. Yeah. And so a lawyer who knows someone who wants to execute a transaction, if they introduce them, then they can increase their transaction law fees and actually sort of gain more trust with their clients. So those are also great referral sources.
Excellent. All right. So I got to ask you, because you even said yourself, there's a lot of M&A people out there doing stuff, and a lot of people that help the due diligence process besides yourself. So how are you better than them, the other guys? Yeah.
So I'm in a niche market where for deals that are under $75 million in enterprise value, which are the lion's share, probably 60 to 70% of the transactions that are trading at any given time, there's not a better resource to help somebody diligence a business of that size. Why is that? There's plenty of people that can do Wall Street stuff, help sell Coke bottlers to Pepsi people and help, these big tech companies and software companies do things. But when it comes to smaller deals, you have to really know where to look.
Yes.
And you only get that experience through doing it. And the people who got that experience doing it are often in an investing firm doing it and are very expensive, they're not available on a fractional basis. So for me and how I talk to people about it is if you're looking to do a deal under $75 million in enterprise value, which is really under $10 million of EBITDA, you really want a very detailed, oriented, thoughtful process person to come in and sort of manage that process, because you want to be focused on how does this acquisition actually increase your values and your holdings, which is difficult enough in a 90-day process to buy a business. You need someone to help you figure out are the numbers right, how do the number issues translate into legal things you need to do in the structure of the deal, and also you're managing a very, very, very touchy negotiation / friendship with the seller who you're going to be business married to for some years after the transaction. There's a lot to do, and we're laser focused on that market doing that thing.
Okay. All right. So basically, you really just focus, and you're not you're not distracted by lots of other things. You've got a few clients that you just hold their hand through the whole thing.
That's it. We're like a Sherpa for people doing deals, or in a corporate setting would be a corporate development person. That's the work that we provide.
Okay. Well, you must have some great stories, huh?
Oh, amazing stories.
So what's your favorite past client story?
So I had a client, it was a New York-based sort of family that owned a business, and the business was being run by the second generation, who was a friend of mine from Harvard Business School.
Okay.
And she was looking to buy a business and brought me in to help with the acquisition process, so sourcing, evaluating, due diligence, closing, and everything. And it was so interesting because we got to a point where a tumultuous thing happened, right? For privacy, I'll keep it there.
Okay.
But it ended up...
Protect the innocent, yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm in a private business, so you have to keep things private.
I imagine you do.
It ended up allowing for a negotiation for my friend and client to actually purchase the family business from her father.
Oh.
Which was an amazing story that over a couple of cocktails I could tell. But to go in for one thing, right, that's hard and difficult and detail-oriented, and then to, on a random Tuesday, see, oh, my gosh, the stars are aligning for a generational wealth transfer, it blew my mind. I still, like that moment, I wish I could replay that day.
But they hadn't thought about that prior to bringing you in? They hadn't discussed that themselves?
You never know what people discuss in a family.
Yeah.
And so I deal a lot with family businesses, and I make the assumption that everything is talked about, but I assume when I talk to them, nothing is talked about, and you just kind of see.
Yeah.
It might be, but you know your relationship with people in your family has 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of experience.
Yeah.
A new person with a new view can see something that you might not have seen, or communicate it differently, or say something like, you guys are eroding value here.
Yeah.
Stop.
Yeah. You know, my kids don't want my business. They've already, in fact, I was sitting there with my son watching a ball game or something a few years back.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I wonder if he would ever consider buying the business, or, and I said, Rob, have you ever considered sales? He looked at me and he said, oh, heck no. That was pretty much the end of that story. Oh, boy. Okay. Well, Elliot, so where's all this going? What do you see for the future of your business and really due diligence in general?
Sure. So there are a lot of trends that I see that have influenced me to stay in this niche and not move from it.
Yeah.
Baby boomers retiring, a lot more businesses for sale, a lot of institutional investors going up market, so looking for bigger companies.
Yeah.
So the smaller companies are available. The purchase prices are more reasonable in this place.
Are they?
So success is doing 5 to 10 deals a year for clients who I like working with, who create value through those acquisitions, who enjoy the process.
Yeah.
And I create a good income for myself. They have great acquisitions that are vetted, and they're comfortable with making those choices, which can be very gut-wrenching when you're considering $1 million investments in private companies.
You must be like a psychologist in some of these things, huh?
I wear a lot of hats.
Yeah.
I wear a lot of quietly. I wear a lot of hats.
Get people to calm down.
Calm down, and then also people get in places where they fall in love with a deal.
Yeah.
Same way you fall in love with a car and kind of get raked over the coals, or a house.
Yes.
Oftentimes my clients do, because what was in the initial presentation was so great, and now you're looking at what it really is, and you would buy what was in the presentation, no doubt. Yeah. But what it really is different. And so managing that, and then the family dynamics are interesting too, because my father actually did the same thing that I do. Unfortunately, he passed away before I could sort of walk into his business or acquire it.
Yeah.
But I understand the family dynamics. My dad hired and fired everybody in my family, including my mother and his first wife. So I sort of understand how this goes.
Okay,
and
there's a whole bunch of more questions I could ask you, but we're probably not going to run out of time on that one. Okay, well, again, this is Simon Says, Let's Talk Business. I'm your host, Al Simon, with Sandler Training, and we're on Business Radio X, and our guest has been Elliot Holland with Guardian Due Diligence. Elliot, this is great stuff, but I'm sure we've got listeners that would want to know how to get a hold of you. Maybe they want to invest. Maybe they just want to pick your brain. Well, I don't know, right? What's the best way to do it?
The best way is to go visit guardianduediligence.com, just spelled out regularly.
Okay.
I can also be found on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn and respond. Either place, you can get me pretty easily.
Okay. Guardianduediligence.com.
Correct.
Or on LinkedIn, Elliot Holland.
Elliot Holland.
Like the country.
That's right.
Yes.
2 L's, 2 T's.
That's important because sometimes it's just 1 T, isn't it?
That's right.
2 L's, 2 T's for Elliot Holland. That would be also 2 L's.
There you go.
Okay.
It's very structured.
All right. Well, this is awesome. And you do such a great job for your clients, helping them find good partners to invest in. That's great stuff. So before we get to Nick, I also want to remind our listeners to stay tuned after we talk to Nick, because I'm going to be giving you a sales tip that come from some of the questions that we get from our listeners when they send them in to us. And so our second guest is Nick Keller. Nick is the CEO of Prinovus International.
Thanks. It's kind of a made-up title. It's owner, CEO.
Doesn't mean anything?
It's whatever. It means I pay the bills.
It means you. That is what business ownership means, doesn't it? Well,
absolutely.
Yeah, that's good stuff. So tell us how long you've been doing this, and what is Prinovus?
So I actually bought the company last August 1st of last year.
Yeah.
I'd been in corporate America for a long time, and I was just very unhappy. It's the same thing every day, and all the politics. I don't like politics.
I understand
I don't
that.
like dealing with it.
Yeah.
And so I've been looking for something for a while, and I came across this company, and I got interested in it. That was about 2.5 years before I actually closed on the deal. And finally, we came to an agreement and bought it last August. But
Congratulations.
Thanks. We manufacture dietary supplements.
Okay, so you have a plant somewhere.
Yep, we sure do.
All right. So tell us, when you say you manufacture dietary supplements, are you a chemist?
I am not a chemist. Like I said, I pay the bills.
Yes.
And I come up with ideas that generally get shot down, but I try.
But you got people on that side of the things.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I'm not an expert at all.
Yeah.
I've learned a lot in the last 11 months now.
Have you?
But I've got people that handle all that stuff for me.
Okay. All right. So, but there's a lot of larger companies involved in that business, right?
Yeah, there absolutely are, and they're more well funded.
Yeah.
They've got more marketing dollars, and the business it's all about marketing, which is kind of unfortunate for smaller companies to get into. It seems easy to start a supplement brand, but it takes a lot of marketing and a lot of just late nights and early mornings.
So how do you compete? Just outwork them?
I wouldn't say outwork them. I mean, I like to think other business owners are working as hard as we are.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of the bigger companies focus more on every nickel and dime, and it's all about profit. Whereas, we're in the business to make money. We're not in it to lose money by any means. But you've got to have the relationship with the customer, and that's where I think that we really shine.
Yeah, you yourself, or you got other people that do that, or
myself and a couple other guys that work for me.
Do you? Yeah. So you're out there talking, and this is what, to retailers?
Well, so most of our business is actually contract manufacturing for other brands.
Okay.
So it's just developing the relationship with those brands.
All right.
Our in-house brands that we sell is 15-20% of our revenue.
Okay, but you've also got to get shelf space.
Yep.
How do you do that?
It's very difficult, and getting into the bigger retailers, which would be great, it's very challenging.
I'll bet. So you still glad you bought this business?
Some days.
Yeah, I understand. But you're smiling. Looks like you like what you're doing, huh?
Yeah, no, I love it. It's just every day's a challenge, and it gets me up in the morning. And it's, what are we going to do today that make the world a little bit of a better place?
Have you got a manufacturing background or a process background?
Nope. I'm a mechanical engineer from Georgia Tech.
Hey, go Jackets.
Go Jackets.
Never actually worked as an engineer, but
This may be the first time I've actually had all my guests and myself from Georgia Tech.
This is pretty awesome.
Go Jackets.
There you go. Yeah. Okay, so you get in this business, and you're having fun, and you're working hard, obviously, and helping companies who have a current brand bring out new products.
come out with new products or take their business from whoever they're getting it manufactured from.
Okay. All right.
We've got a bunch of brands that have use several manufacturers, and we just have a small piece of their business, and we try to get more of it. And
Yeah.
Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
But why would a company choose to give you more of their business? But what about the manufacturing process or the ingredients you use is attractive?
I mean, there's nothing really specific about it that sets us apart from anybody else. It's just we really nurture that relationship with the customer, and we'll help them develop every product they want to do. A lot of manufacturers just want you to give them the formula, and they'll run it for you.
Yeah, so it's just a numbers game, right?
Yep.
You give us the formula, we set it up, we run it.
Exactly.
But you're actually digging in with them. You're really helping them with strategy as well as tactics. I'm taking.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
digging in with them, or just completely designing it on our own.
Wow.
And then sharing it with them and saying, what do you like about this? Is there anything you want to change?
That sounds really cool. I bet that's a blast for you, huh?
Some days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you mentioned to me something about doing the right thing. What does that mean to you, Nick?
Just like I said before, a lot of the big companies they're just in it to make a dollar.
Yeah.
It's make a decision that's gonna better society and not just better you.
Yeah.
It's one thing I can help myself, but it's if I can help somebody else and that in some way impacts 10, 20, 30 people down the road.
Yeah.
That's much more valuable to me than me getting an extra dollar out of a product.
Right. And dietary supplements, I mean, that's not going away. That's kind of business that probably Elliot can help people invest in, right? It's not going away, right?
Not going away.
Yeah.
Yeah, and unfortunately, we weren't really in the immunity space before COVID hit.
Yeah.
And I wish we were.
I'll bet. Yeah. But you know what? COVID's going to go away at some point.
Yep.
Right. So if we all stick to what we know works, it will be fine, right? You can't go back and say, "Hey, I wish I'd done that. I wish I'd done this." Right? You just can't do that. Yeah.
Definitely not.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So Nick, Nick Keller with Prinovus International. Nick, if our listeners wanted to get a hold of you, what's the best way to do it?
You just go to our website, Prinovus.com, and there's a form on there to send us an email, or LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn and pretty responsive messages.
So the website is Prinovus.com, Prinovus.
That's correct.
Prinovus.com, and you're on LinkedIn as well.
I am.
And as Nick Keller, Keller, right?
That's it.
Very good. Yeah, awesome stuff. So thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Al.
This is great. Again, it's Al Simon with Sandler Training, and this is Simon Says, Let's Talk Business, our show on Business Radio X. And I've been Elliot Holland with Guardian Due Diligence and Nick Keller with Prinovus International. And thanks, guys. Good stuff, huh? Good stuff. So our listeners are going to want to contact you and plug into your intellectual property and see if there's other ways that you can help them. All right, so as usual, we're going to take a look at a question that was sent in from our listeners. And by the way, if you have questions that you'd like on sales, of course, is what we do at Sandler Training, sales and sales management training and coaching. If you've got questions about sales or sales management, send them to al.simon@sandler.com. And I'm actually going to address two questions today that came from the same person. This person wrote in and said, how do you get people to like salespeople? How do you get people, I'm assuming prospects, how do you get prospects to like salespeople? And then secondarily, how do you get people to buy from you? Well, let's take that first question. How do you get people, prospects, to buy from you? That may actually be the wrong question. If you think about it, it might be, how do you get prospects to trust you enough to want to buy from you? And that's really what we're talking about here. You've all heard the saying, people buy from people they like. That saying has been around for probably decades, if not centuries. But it actually doesn't go anywhere near deep enough. It just doesn't go deep enough. There's a lot of people I like who I will never buy from. They just can't come through right. They can't get it right. They can't, they just can't produce. And so I don't trust them to produce, even though they're nice people. I like them. So you got to go a lot deeper than getting someone to like you by being likable. That's just not going to be enough. And so, we talked about, Elliot, you're a psychologist sometimes with your clients. And the same thing with people who are selling. You have to be a little bit of a psychologist, and you have to use the psychology of getting people to feel like you are not unlike them. Think about it this way. We all have been on the phone with, let's say, with a customer service person, and we immediately feel that disconnect because they don't talk like we do. And they don't think like we do, maybe, and they do things. We go, I wouldn't do that, right? And maybe they talk too slow or too fast or too loud or too soft. So we feel a disconnect. Well, whenever you're talking to a prospect, or even back up a little bit to what we call a suspect, not yet a qualified prospect, you have to pay attention. You have to ask questions and listen carefully and find out what kind of a communicator are they. How fast do they talk? How loud or soft? When they change their cadence of speech or when they change their tonality of speech, that all means something, right? And just like, if you're face-to-face, body language and the change in body language means something. If you pay attention to all that kind of stuff and really concentrate on communicating like your prospect communicates, that builds that rapport, which builds the likeness, because people do like people that they feel like are like themselves. And then if you do what you say you're going to do, eventually that trust will come. So that's the real answer to how do you get people to like salespeople, is to make sure that you're doing things intentionally so that they feel like you are not unlike them. And they'll automatically, it's psychology, they'll automatically feel comfortable communicating with you and eventually to trust you. Now, as far as the second question, how do you get people to buy from you? Well, once you've established that rapport where they feel comfortable communicating with you and eventually to start to trust you, the way people buy or make buying decisions or even take any kind of action is because they have an issue, a problem, an objective, and they see you as the way to get that thing fixed. And so that's really it. It's not really all about the features and benefits of the stuff that we do as salespeople. No, it's about the prospect and what it is they're trying to accomplish. And if we focus on that and focus on getting them to feel comfortable with us, then you'll get each and every prospect, no matter what their communication style is, no matter what their personality style is, you'll get them to start to trust you and be more likely to want to take action with you. And so we have to be psychologists. In fact, we say that true professional sales is like a Broadway play performed by a psychiatrist. That's what we say, because you really have to be into that interaction, people to people, because people buy from people, and that's really the answer to the question. And that's sales, probably not 101, but all professional salespeople need to master the art of communicating with others, and that's focusing on the other person. And so there we go. So this has been another episode of Simon Says, Let's Talk Business. Our guest, Elliot Holland with Guardian Due Diligence, Nick Keller with Prinovus International. I'm Al Simon, your host with Sandler Training by Simon Inc. You can reach me at al.simon@sandler.com or at simoninc.sandler.com on the internet. And so, hey, good selling.
Good selling.